I sent the first draft of my novel off to a beta reader a month ago, and I just got the message back with the final annotations. Hi, I'm Amanda Fagan. I've been working on a novel that I wrote for the past 2 years. I finished writing it a year ago, and then I tried to send it off to beta readers and editors and didn't have much luck. I finally found someone to read my novel and give thoughtful feedback. I found them on Fiverr, and they had really good ratings and a lot of experience, so we're going to go check that out. I'm nervous, but I'm also excited to hear the thoughts of someone who has read the novel in its entirety. I have had a few friends look at the first 3 chapters, but nothing beyond that, so here we go. I'm really nervous. It says, "Hello, please find attached the reader report and annotated manuscript returned. Let me know if you have any questions." My novel was 72,000 words. Let's read the reader report together. I don't know if I'm gonna name drop my book yet. It's a sci-fi literary fiction mystery novel. If you don't know what literary fiction is, it basically means character based, so it's a big emphasis on the characters. It's a realism superhero story because I love superheroes, but I wanted to try to do a realism take on the superhero story that I haven't seen before in media. She started off with characters. I'm really nervous. These are my babies. They're my children and I care about them deeply. It's interesting because of the handful of beta readers I have shown the first few chapters of my book to, they all like different characters, which I've been told is a good thing because at least that means I have several strong characters, but let's see. Monet. Monet was an intriguing character, but I did find I wanted more backstory and development of her. She went through quite a lot of changes in her opinion and actions, but I felt that we didn't really get to know her like I hoped. She was our introduction to the story and therefore felt like an important character right away, but it felt like she was kept at a bit of a distance from us. I would have loved more development of her, both of her backstory and her emotions/reactions as we move through the story. Okay, that is valid because I'm gonna be honest, I've already been toying with ideas of the sequel and she's a character that I've been struggling with a lot. Yeah, note taken, and I appreciate that feedback. I'm skipping some of it because there's spoilers for my story. Character number 2, Ariana. Ariana was much like Monet in that I wanted more information about her. Not necessarily her past or backstory, but her personality, her reactions and emotions, the way she connected to things. She was another one of our characters that felt the most main. But again, I struggled to connect with her on that level because there was no real depth to the way she moved through the world and reacted within it. If you can showcase this more, I would think her character would feel so much stronger. Yes. Sorry. So sorry, I just read something and didn't really read it out loud, so you guys don't know why basically she says, "I really enjoyed her relationship with blank character." I'm not gonna say which character. They had great chemistry and I was rooting for them throughout. Yes, I attempted a slow burn and I don't read a lot of romance because the only romance I really read is Jane Austen, so I was really hoping and worried about the slow burn aspect because I thought, what if it's too slow? Because I just read 6 of Crows and so many people have told me that's one of the best slow burns, and when I was reading it I realized mine was even slower, so I got a little scared. But she says that she was rooting for them throughout and this really landed. Yes, okay. This makes me really happy, guys. Overall, Ariana worked well in her role. She was curious and brave, also fragile and empathetic, which made her engaging to follow, but again, there was a lack of depth. I think one problem I might have with this character, I appreciate the honesty, is in my head, I think she has a lot of depth, but I think I've fallen into this thing where I was so afraid of show not tell. If you don't know what show not tell is, it's basically that you need to show in your writing more than tell. And I think I've taken so many classes and gotten that note that now I'm afraid to tell and I only show. I took an acting class and we did a whole unit on body language, and so I use so much body language now in my writing because I got that from my acting class, but I realize not everyone knows what super specific body languages, and I think I'm might be overusing that, where I think, I'm conveying a lot because I'm showing, I'm not telling, but then I think I need to tell a little more. I think I need to not be so afraid of telling because it's not coming through. Her character is not coming through in that sense. I don't know if I should say this, but this is probably my favorite character, and let's see what this beta reader thinks of him, and that is Kit. Kit was great, and here I think the lack of large amounts of character development worked. Yes. It kept him mysterious, a little at arm's length, which made us frame him more through Ariana's eyes. I loved how cool he was with his fashion sense, how much he deeply cared about helping people, and just the way he moved through life. He was probably my favorite character of the bunch. yes. I just, sorry. Anyways, he remains consistent in his attitude and always coming across as a good guy. Overall, Kit was an excellent character, one I hope to see more of in the future. I really enjoyed... I'm gonna leave some parts out because they are spoilers. He came through. I'm really happy about that. Okay, because he's my favorite character. I love all of these characters so much. It's really funny because Kit is probably one of the main characters of the story, and he wasn't supposed to be at first. He was a side character in my first outline. That's something to keep in mind about outlines. Things change all the time. For example, the next character I'm about to read about was originally supposed to be the main character of the novel, and he's listed as number 4 on my beta readers sheet. And yeah, so things change. As I was working the story, I just felt like Kit, I could do more with him because he was for those that are curious, he is a theater guy. He's a theater tech guy, and I got the idea because I work in theater. I am studying theater, and a lot of my friends were tech concentrations like lighting and design and props and stage management, and because I was around so many theater tech people, I wanted to make one of the characters in the story, at least one. There are 2 characters involved in theater in this story. Kit is one of them. He's more into design and prop making, and so they say write what you know, so I think that might be why he came across so strong compared to other characters. For example, Monet is a police officer, and I don't really know any police officers. I watch and read a lot of crime fiction, but that's about it. So I guess I should do some more research on police officers. So our next character is Leo. I like Leo, but as he felt like another main character, I think he needs more development. There's so much space to dig deeper into all of this and really show him questioning things. Even in third person, it's very possible to do this, and I think it's doing him a little disservice by not. The ending of his plot, where I'm not going to say what it is, was excellent and did work to bring him back to fully likable. Leo's relationship with Fallon was great, and I really enjoyed how immature he could be without being ashamed of it. Yeah, he's the youngest of the bunch, so I'm glad that immaturity came through. That was one thing I'm really happy about. He was funny, bright, and sometimes a bit silly, all working well to make him fun. Overall, another likable character that just needed some deeper development to really shine. I appreciate that note. I was actually surprised that the ending worked and the beginning didn't, because I kind of felt that I was more worried about the ending, because I remember I wrote his ending in like one sitting. I went to coffee shop and just wrote like 3 straight chapters, and I'm really glad that worked out, because I felt like I kept rewriting the first chapters, and then the last 3, no one has read them, and I just did first draft and sent that to her. So I guess that just goes to show that sometimes you can overthink stuff, because I think I have reworked the first 3 chapters so many times, and it sounds like his story is a little confusing in that area, but the end went really smoothly, and that was just one sitting. So like I said, writing is all trial and error, and my phone ran out of storage, just cleared out a bunch of stuff. Let's continue. Our next character is Fallon. I have a lot of main characters because it's kind of more of an ensemble piece where there's no one main character, but there's quite a few, and they get pretty equal perspectives on this story. Fallon was one of the lesser developed characters, but as he didn't really have much to do within the plot itself, this was fine. He was likable and suited his role well, and I'm curious to learn more about him as we move into future novels, which I think are planned. If not, they should be. Yay! We really saw Fallon shine through Leo. They're best friends, for everyone curious. They're a dynamic duo, and so I'm really glad that their dynamic played well. Fallon was funny and engaging when Leo was around. We saw Fallon sink into himself when he wasn't in the presence of Leo. Okay, so I'm not going to say too much because there was a lot of big plot specific stuff. She would have liked to see more of his reaction to one of the major plot points, and I agree, that could be quite interesting. Next character, Briar. While Briar felt a slightly more of a secondary character, like the likes of Fallon or Kit, I did find I wanted more development than we got. I would just like to understand more of how she came to where she was when we met her. Actually, I've been thinking about that a lot recently, and I have this very specific image in my mind of this scene of her that I want to add to the first chapter that I think would set up a lot. It's a scene that involves a billboard. I just had the idea when I was going around San Diego and I saw this billboard and I thought this would be really cool to include in the novel. So I'm glad that I got that note because it's something I was already considering. Because I feel like Briar's one of those characters that I know a lot about her, but I don't know if I conveyed it all to my readers. How did she start off? What are her goals? Is she happy? I think she lacked a little bit of personal development, or at least some further hints as to it if you'd like to keep her more mysterious. I do want to keep her more mysterious. She's a very mysterious character, but it's good to know that certain things didn't come through. I think that's once again my weakness of thinking that my writing is conveying something, but then I'm pulling back too much. I need to get better at figuring out how to reveal things to my readers while not giving them everything. I think instead I'm so afraid of telling too much that I've been not telling enough. The backstory we did get of her blah 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 blah, this is a big spoiler, worked great. I'm really glad. This was another character that I pulled from what I know. She's a lawyer, and I wrote her before I watched Daredevil, and now Daredevil's one of my favorites, but it's because I have a lot of family members that are lawyers, or that were lawyers. So I know a lot about that, so I wanted once again to make one of the characters have a profession that I understood a lot about. So I'm glad that her backstory on that was satisfying. Next character, Delphine. Delphine was likable, soft and gentle. I didn't find we got to know her very much, but as a later addition to the cast, that was absolutely fine. She worked well in her role, and I don't think needs any development in this novel. Perfect, because I on purpose, Delphine is a character that does not show up till like 1/3 of the way through the novel, but I have a lot of plans for her for the future. Now we have plot/pacing. I'm not going to read all of these because there are a lot, but I'm just going to read a few that are surface level and don't give away too much of the book, and that I think could be helpful for people writing their own novels. So, the opening line was great, quickly pulling me into the novel and raising curiosity. Opening with quick questions is excellent for quickly engaging the reader. Yay! Okay, so one note I got is there's something that happens that triggers everything in the novel, and you get flashbacks of that one day from different people's perspective in each chapter. And my beta reader said that I should start off with more context about that night in the beginning and then go on to revealing stuff throughout. That way people aren't still guessing chapter by chapter and getting confused, but they have like enough to start with, but not all of it revealed. I don't give a lot away at first. I try to make it pretty mysterious, but maybe I need to give a little bit more context if it's coming across as confusing, because I think that's a very serious note. I could definitely rework that and tell a little bit more in the beginning, so that way they don't have the whole puzzle, but they have a decent amount, so that way they can understand context in the story and not get confused, because I don't want my reader to get confused. So there is also a mystery in this novel, and I'm really glad that my beta reader did not guess how the mystery unfolded. That makes me feel good because I am a huge mystery lover. It's probably the genre I read the most of after classic books, but I think I've read more mysteries than classics this year, so it's probably my number one genre right now. I've always loved mystery. I have been into mystery since I was 5 years old watching Scooby-Doo, so it makes me feel really good that the mystery wasn't solved, because I was worried that I made it too obvious, and apparently I shocked the readers, so that makes me feel good. See, it just shows that I withhold a lot of information, and then like I thought I was being too obvious and I shocked my reader, and then other things didn't come across because I was trying to be mysterious. Like, good that I held back on the mystery, but I need to not hold back on other things that should be more obvious. The next section is world building. This story takes place in San Diego because it is where I am from originally, so I also felt like it would be really interesting to tell a superhero story in the city because of San Diego Comic-Con, and because I'm from here and know so much about the city. I took travel writing recently, which taught a lot about how to describe the world around you in a realistic way, so I tried to implement what I learned into my draft. I also wrote most of the story before I took the travel writing class, so I was worried if it still came through in a good way. So let's see what my beta reader thought about my world building. San Diego as a backdrop was very strong and easy to imagine. I've never been to San Diego, and I found myself really enjoying the descriptions. You did a great job making these vivid and engaging. San Diego almost felt like a character all of its own because of how well developed the county/city was. Really good job here. I could always imagine the characters moving through this world. Yay! To discuss the supernatural elements more, I think this needed a lot more building within the world. Overall, a cool concept and vivid backdrop, but not enough detail. So, good world building in the sense of San Diego, but be more clear in the sci-fi world building element of it, which makes sense. I'll admit I do not read a lot of fantasy and sci-fi because I'm not a huge fan of world building, so it makes sense that I would struggle in that area. I do love sci-fi movies and video games, but this is writing, and I don't read a lot of sci-fi, so that's probably why this suffered in that way. So I need to work on world building. I appreciate that note. It is something that I will work to get better at. Last section is writing. The prose itself was engaging and well written, suiting a wide audience. But I do have some notes. There were times when things felt too telling and not showing, and where I wanted more depth and emotion explored. I also noted some head hopping, which is where we jump between characters' POVs in the middle of a scene. This can be a problem even in third person. I've attached an article about head hopping here, which is really worth a read to understand it better. To quickly discuss formatting, I did really like the episodic nature, but I'm not sure how well it would translate to a physical book. As an ebook or even an episodic release, I think it was really fun, and I could see the film influences, short scenes, etc. I have a film degree, so it was fun to see it this way. Just something to reflect on as you move forward. Perhaps more interesting formatting could happen in anything physical. Valid. I really appreciate the article link on head hopping. It's not linked in the PDF I downloaded, but I believe it is in my notes on Fiverr, so I'm going to check that out because I actually have never heard of head hopping before, so I'm very intrigued. And I did write this as more of an episodic novel because I'm studying theater, and I also have a film emphasis in my degree. I'm studying stage and screen, so I do more theater, but I do also do a handful of film because it's part of my degree. So I wanted to put that into play in the novel because I love episodic. I love episodic stories, and I felt like it worked well with superheroes. And so I'm glad she liked it, but she was just thinking, how would you format this? And I have thought about that a lot, and it is a question I have been asking a few of my other writer friends on formatting. I read a fantasy book recently, and I read some more modern novels recently, and I've gotten some ideas for formatting based on that. So reading is important. I read a lot of classics, and recently I realized I need to read more modern books because I love classics. I've read about 50, maybe more. But if I'm writing a modern book, I need to read modern books too. The last section, I gave my beta reader a list of questions that I plan to give to every beta reader, and I wanted to know her answers. So she answered them, and I'm a little afraid because some of them were kind of negative questions, but I wanted to know. So here we go. I'm going to leave out the ones that are major spoilers because there are several that are very spoiler heavy, but I needed to know them. My favorite character was Kit. He was just so cool and lovely. I love the San Diego beach setting the most. It was so vivid and lively. In terms of plot holes, I don't think there are anything major, just small things like how the characters were surprised. And then I asked, would you read a sequel, or do you think this book has enough to make a sequel? And she said, I would definitely like to see a follow-up. The path was certainly laid for more. Yes, I'm so glad. So that's 2 people that have told me they want a sequel. I'm gonna do a trilogy, not a series. I feel like a trilogy is perfect for this concept. Awesome. And then my beta reader said, please follow up if I have any questions or want to discuss any points further. I'm gonna look at the line-by-line commentary, but I am really happy with the initial feedback. It is very thorough, and it answered things that I needed answered. There were very good critiques I was given. I got to see what worked, what didn't. It was a mixed bag, but I'm glad because I know what worked now. I know what I need to improve on, and I'm really inspired to get back into this. Thank you so much for watching this video and going through my beta reader's notes with me. It made the process a lot easier for me, feeling like I was doing this with someone. I hope that some of the advice I received was helpful to you. If you'd like to follow the progress of my novel or want me to do any other videos on my process, let me know. I know I got some requests in the past. I will get to those. I'm looking forward to continuing with this project. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye!